It started on a Tuesday. James, a registered nurse, had been home with Liam for 9 weeks when Labrador, the family's Labrador Retriever, began to change. Not dramatically, not in a way that made anyone reach for the phone immediately or say something is wrong out loud. Just quietly, the way that real problems begin, at the edge of ordinary life, in a place where nobody is paying close attention. The Labrador Retriever refused to leave the nursery doorway. That was how it started. James noticed it on the 3rd day. By the 5th day, Linda had noticed it too. They talked about it over dinner while Liam slept in the next room, and they came to a reasonable conclusion. The family thought the animal was becoming territorial. It made sense. It fit the pattern. They were not careless people. They were careful, attentive parents who had read the parenting books and knew when to call the pediatrician and when to wait. They waited. On the 8th day, the behavior escalated. What had been intermittent became constant. The Labrador Retriever stopped sleeping through the night. James would find he standing in the hallway at 2 in the morning, not pacing, not whining, just standing, facing Liam's door, still, waiting for something that James could not identify. She told Linda she was starting to feel uneasy. He said he understood, but that they should give it another few days. On the 10th night, the Labrador Retriever did something it had never done before. Not once in the years they had owned. He pressed his entire weight against Liam's bedroom door from the inside. When James opened the door at 3 a.m., she found the animal standing over Liam's small form, not touching, deliberate, certain. James stood in the doorway for 4 seconds. Then she turned on the light. What she saw made her reach for her phone before she had fully processed what she was looking at. The details will not be repeated here because they belong to the family and to Liam's medical file. What matters is that emergency services arrived within 9 minutes. What matters is that the on-call physician later told James, standing in a hospital corridor while monitors beeped steadily from the room behind her, that the doctor looked at the readings and said the outcome without intervention was not something she wanted to describe. The doctor said one more thing. She said, "Whatever your animal was doing, it was right." The cause turned out to be undetected type 1 diabetes blood sugar crash. Silent, invisible to any human sense, the kind of thing that builds without announcement and resolves without mercy. If nothing intervenes, the Labrador Retriever had been detecting it. Not learning it, not being trained for it, simply detecting it, the way animals detect things that exist beneath the threshold of human awareness, in the chemical signature of breath, in the micro-vibrations of a building, in the frequencies of air that carry information we have given up the ability to read. James sat in the hospital for 6 hours. She sat with his hands in his lap and thought about the 9 days she had watched the Labrador Retriever behave strangely and had found a reasonable explanation every single time. She thought about the family thought the animal was becoming territorial. She thought about how certain she had been. She had been wrong. Linda arrived at the hospital at 4 a.m. They didn't talk much. They sat together in the corridor and watched the clock and waited for the physician to come back out and give them news they could carry home. The news was good. Liam recovered fully. The treatment was straightforward once the cause was identified. The attending pediatrician used the word fortunate twice in a single sentence, which is not something physicians do unless they mean it. When they brought Liam home 3 days later, the Labrador Retriever was waiting at the front door. Not excited, not performative, just there in the way that a thing is there when it has been waiting because it knew to wait. James knelt on the floor. She put his arms around the animal's neck. She didn't say anything out loud. Some things don't need to be said. The Labrador Retriever has slept in Liam's room every night since. James checks in each morning and finds them in the same configuration, the animal positioned at the foot of the small bed, watching the door. Doing what animals do when they have accepted the job of watching over someone who cannot watch over themselves. If you have ever dismissed a pet's strange behavior as anxiety or jealousy or stress, stop. Watch it more carefully. Ask a different question. The answer you find might be one you needed a long time before you thought to look for it. Weeks later, when the house had returned to its ordinary rhythm, the parent sat on the living room floor with the animal beside them and thought about what it had cost to almost make the wrong choice. The number was too large to calculate. So they didn't try. They just stayed on the floor. They stayed there until the animal put its head in their lap, and they put their hand on its back. And the room got quiet enough that there was nothing left to do except be grateful for the specific version of the story that had an ending like this. 1. The research on animal detection continues to expand. Scientists documenting cases like this have found that the olfactory and auditory sensitivity of domesticated animals, particularly dogs, extends into ranges that human instruments are still being designed to measure. What the animal in this story was detecting existed. It was real. The animal was not confused, not anxious, not acting out. It was doing the most important work it would ever do, in the only language it had, hoping someone would understand. This family did, just in time.